Thank you for joining us today on 10 Minutes with the Artist, an episodic series that explores the art practice and the personal vision that guides the artist. On today's episode, we're very proud to have Kingsley Permenter, who exhibited recent works from his series Marks Made at the 2017 Baccalaureate Exhibition at North Dakota State University. Marks Made is a collection of ceramic cups that examine how expressive impressions can reference gesture, thought, and meaning. Their works are highly physical and invite viewers to interact, consider, and remember the impact marks can make on the mind, body, and the spaces that surround us. We'll be speaking to Kingsley today about his process, body of work, and the impressions that this series has made on him. I'm Anthony Ferris, and this is 10 Minutes with the Artist. So Kingsley, thank you so very much for joining us today on 10 Minutes with the Artist. I was wondering what the difference is between looking at one cup is versus looking at an installation of cups.
Oh, well, I think for me, when I was working on them, they became very personal. So it's almost like the difference between looking at one person than looking at a population of people. You know, if you look at one person, then you kind of, you focus on their details, but then when you look at the population, you kind of see the similarities between everyone. So I think that's the major difference.
And did you see that people interacted with them in that sort of way, or did you see them, how were people sort of interacting and experiencing your installation?
Well, for me, I think a lot of people were just surprised that they could interact with them. Because, it's a very thing that we don't normally do. And I saw a couple people that went through and checked out multiple cups and went through the whole installation. And then there were also a couple that just picked one, and then some that were very hesitant. And I think that also kind of just lends to how that person is in social environments too. I feel like the ones that picked up more than one cup were a little bit more talkative. The ones that didn't really touch any cups were way more reserved. So I found that to be a very interesting observation as well.
Yeah. And where do you think that the right place is to experience this installation?
The right place to experience it. I think we did a very good job with how we did it here at the Memorial Union Gallery, because we were able to set it up into two different sections. So we did have that more gallery style installation, what we were trying to get people out of their comfort zones. And then we had, it in the public area, which was kind of putting it another out of people's comfort zones, because, you're not usually seeing cups on the wall that people are like, hey, pick these up and use them. And, sometimes I think when people see these things and they're not being watched, they're a little bit more hesitant, because there's always that eye in the sky. So it was just very interesting to watch how everyone interacted with them in the different spaces. And I'm just glad none of them got stolen too.
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised. I mean, I wasn't worried about any of them going missing, but I think the fact that they all stayed there speaks a lot to the community that we have around us.
Right. And there's an element of trust and sort of lack of ownership in that sort of expectation of involvement. And I was wondering why you have felt, and maybe this connects with some sort of like overall value or philosophy, but why you felt that it was important to have people involved and interact with the pieces and actually touch them.
Well, for me, I always want to touch the art when I'm in the gallery. When I'm looking at a painting and I want to feel like whether this part was sanded down or not, or like how far the paint comes off the canvas. And I just really kind of wanted to break that rule and give give people something they could touch and they could feel. And, and then there opens up a lot more variety. Like, someone could drop and break one, And then we have a whole nother situation right there on like, how is it going to be handled? Like, are they going to freak out? Is it going to be okay? And I think I kind of enjoy having those variables that people add into handling the work.
The work is offset on the shelves, and I was wondering if you could talk about some of the decisions you made while installing the work.
Well, the main choice with the shelves is I kind of wanted to make them look like cabinets and real warm. That's why we always put it in the low wall area as well. I wanted people to be very comfortable reaching in and grabbing those pieces, and wanted it to almost seem familiar. So that's why I really kind of had them offset on the shelves and had them, I mean, they started off, I think, pretty straightforward, up and down, organized, and I think as they went on, some of them migrated to be closer together. There were even times where I saw people would go in and they would personally space them out evenly just out of compulsion. So I think that with that part of the installation, I really enjoyed to see like what the viewer brought to it, things that I didn't even expect.
Yeah. So when you're speaking about that sort of feeling of warmth and the cabinets, I'm kind of curious why these vessels were empty, and I'm kind of curious about how they'd be viewed differently if they were full, which comes to this like wider question, which is about it being viewed as an aesthetic object versus, say, a purely utilitarian item.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, but where are the cups empty? I mean, they're full of opportunity. So I think that's what I enjoy. Like, you pick it up, and I feel people could imagine, like, oh, I could see drinking out of this, or storing my change in here, or even just leaving it to watch and admire. So I think that while they're not physically full, there is a sense of usefulness or fullness, just metaphorically.
Yeah. So you do intend them to actually be utilized instead of just being held and interacted with. You expect people to consume out of them as well?
Yeah, of course. That's always an option.
Okay. So how does the ritual of making, say, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 of the same sort of vessels, what's the difference between that, or how does that maybe inspire you to interact with the one work? Like, how's the one inspired by the many?
The one inspired by the many. That is a very good question.
I guess my overall question is that you've made each one sort of unique, but you've been talking about things, at least not right now, but like in general about marks. And so you have like all these different pieces that may even grow in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like your approach to making may grow by the 15th cup, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So how is that like one maybe at the end different than, or how does it like how does it work in the whole, and how does it also like work as an individual?
Oh, well, working in the whole, that's where the way I formatted them. You know, since I kind of took a little bit from my printmaking, I really set up those formats of having a nice clean border at the top and clean border at the bottom. So I feel that tied them in all individual, tied them in as a group of work. And then for that, you know, with all the marks are really similar because they all use the same tool. I had just basically a stick and my hands. So, and then just as I did each one, I gained experience. So then I was able to push it a different way, or saw that something worked differently. So it's almost as a progression, I would say. Like, you know, each note builds off of the next note, but they're all in the same time frame or rhythm.
Okay, so at the very end of our conversation, I like to ask a few questions about your creative practice. So I was wondering what time of day you feel like you're most creative.
At night. I've always been a night owl ever since I worked at UPS and even in high school. It's just something about the calm. Like, you can go out and you don't have to worry about a lot of the sounds, and no one's really around to stop you doing any adventurous, creative things.
Yeah.
So,
Do you listen to music or anything like that when you're making work?
all the time. I feel like rhythm is a large part of my work, subconsciously and consciously, just with like the strokes of my hand and brush, just, and then it also provides an emotion that gets in there too.
What do you listen to?
Oh man, I listen to a little bit of everything. Like, especially this semester, I was taking a roots of popular music in America course. So I mean, this semester with these works, I think I've listened to anything that's popular or anything that's influenced popular music in America as a whole. But my favorite so far is I like to listen to the hip hop rap. It has that it's really rhythmic, and it relies heavily on beat.
Mm-hmm.
So that just kind of really sets, I think, a good pace.
Yeah. Are you reading anything right now?
Oh, reading anything right now? I have a few books that I've been skimming, but the one that I just opened up to read is the new American Gods. It's very interesting. It's basically a recreation of mythologies,
Mm-hmm.
bringing old and new gods, and yeah, it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. And how do you know that a piece is finished?
I remember I had one instructor tell me that a piece can never quite be finished, because after we finish it, then we're in a different place than when we started it, because we've learned something, we've experienced it. So for me, I think when it's finished, it's when I don't want to work on it anymore. But then there's been times where I think I finished something and I'll see it in a month or two and I'll be like, nope, that's not done. I missed this. And so I think that's part of the struggle of being an artist.
Yeah.
So, your work is never done.
And if you didn't have to work in the medium that you've been working in, what medium would you work in?
For me, I've always liked to think of myself as a jack of all trades. I would like to be able to work in whatever media I need to work in to get the job accomplished.
Okay.
So,
And then I guess my last question would be, what's next for you?
well, right now I think we are moving down to Memphis, Tennessee, and we're going to talk to their national parks or state parks and see if we can't get them some better photo representation of their surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Figure that could maybe lead into a little bit more tourism, maybe put together a book for them, and see if that works out.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
So Kingsley, thank you so very much for joining us today on 10 Minutes with the Artist, and I'd like to thank you all for your time and your interest in the professional practice and the creative explorations happening here at North Dakota State University. So thank you, and for everyone here at the Memorial Union Gallery, keep creative.